Actually, the thing about it is that sailors don't really need to swim well because we wear a life jacket. And they make you do like a very simple test. You just put one mark out at sea. You wear your life jacket, you swim around that mark and come back to shore. Almost everyone can do it. Hi, I'm Kimberly. Basically a sailor for most of my life, coming to like 18 years already. For me, sailing started because my sister tried it as a CCA in school. My family gave me a shot to go try like a weekend class, and my sister went on the boat with me to bring me out to sea. And slowly that fear and that whole confidence to be on the water by myself grew, and I think that's where sailing started to grow more and more, and it's like I totally fell in love with it.
How do you feel like having a coach improve your progress as a sailor?
For us, a coach is almost like part of the team. You fall back on each other a lot. We have so much time spent together that I think that relationship is more important than anything else, actually.
You spend a lot of time away from home, from family, from friends. How did this sacrifices affect you? Like,
it's not really a sacrifice, it's a choice we make. It's a life we choose to embark on as athletes, and it's quite a special one.
I want to ask, like, how does it feel to qualify for a medal race, at the Olympics?
Pure joy.
I saw an article you mentioned about being close to a burnout before. Why do you think that happened? Why do you think you were close to a burnout? Was there any reasons that you could think of?
I think largely it's because the campaign more or less consumed me.
Okay, so why not introduce yourself? Like, what's your name? What do you do?
Okay. Hi, I'm Kimberly. Basically a sailor for most of my life, coming to like 18 years already. Started sailing when I was 10. Was a full-time athlete for a large part of it. Let's say 9 years, I think, for the Tokyo campaign and trying for the Paris campaign.
Brilliant. And how did it all started? Like, what made you get into sailing, especially at such a young age?
For me, sailing started because my sister, who is 2 years older than me, tried it as a CCA in school, in primary school. But quite lucky because the primary schools that are in the east would have the sport, so we had the chance to like give it a shot. The funny thing is, my sister's the adventurous one. I'm the really indoorsy kind, I was doing ballet at that time, and ballet actually was like something I preferred over sailing. But my family gave me a shot to go try like a weekend class, and my sister went on the boat with me to bring me out to sea. And slowly that fear and that whole confidence to be on the water by myself grew, and I think that's where sailing started to grow more and more, and it's like I totally fell in love with it. Yeah.
Interesting. So did you probably knew how to swim, right, before going out to the sea?
Actually the thing about it is that sailors don't really need to swim well.
I see. Okay, interesting.
Because we wear a life jacket. And they make you do like a very simple test. You just put one mark out at sea. You wear your life jacket, you swim around that mark and come back to shore. So like almost everyone can do it, unless you're really, really scared. Yeah. So.
Oh, okay, my memory is a bit hazy. So you don't really have to like have basic swimming certs or stuff like that, like like the bronze silver.
No.
Okay, so what happens if the boat capsizes?
You just need to learn how to upright the boat. Like that's like one of the base things they teach you when you first start learning. To be very comfortable that the boat can flip, and where should you be, where should you not be, how to avoid getting any injuries or like just getting stuck. Even if you get stuck, you're trained to be stuck. Like how do you get out of being under the boat, for example?
Okay, cool. So but for you, do you know how to swim? Like, do you know?
Yeah. I do.
Okay. Another point you mentioned. You said you grew up in the east.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the east, the schools have more what do you say? Sports CCA.
Like very few primary schools offer sailing as a CCA. But you have a handful like Taunan, CHIJ Primary, that are in the east that have the sport. Then you have St. Hilda's, who's not so much in the east, but they also have the sport as a CCA. So actually, there are very, very few schools back then, at least, with sailing as a CCA, and most of the sailors came from these schools.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I was in sailing, so as a CCA.
Oh, really?
But I'm very ashamed. I'm very ashamed to say that. In primary school, yeah.
Okay.
My dad was a sailor. My granddad probably did some sailing as well. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I can't remember anything much from my sailing days. I mean, this is just on a side note, like sailing, I just didn't like to get the sand stuck in the sand in the water and mix, and then it's all over your body and your feet and everything. I just didn't like that much. But then as I grew older, I went into dragon boat, so it was basically the same thing. Like, I mean, in terms of that, water sports, right? But okay, so yeah, that's something interesting. I was from Maristella, by the way. That's not really the East.
I think, yeah, they also had back then, maybe like secondary level, but not so many primary kids, I think.
Yeah.
Was it? Something like that?
Mine was in primary. So yeah, I can't really remember much. Memories are hazy from then. So I just want to ask, like, how does it feel to be, a gold medalist at the Asian Games, and the first Singaporeans alongside, your team member Cecilia, right? To qualify for a medal race, at the Olympics for sailing.
I think for me, the Asian Games is a good thing. It's always like one more to the collection kind of thing, because Asian Games, my first Asian Games was back in when I was 14, I think, in the Optimist class. So since then, I have done every Asian Games since I was 14. So I think Asian Games is always one of those in the collection, but the medal race in the Olympics would always stand out. Like, that is a special memory. Even the feeling of finding out how we entered the medal race was as dramatic as it gets. I don't think but like phones and like connection to internet is not allowed during the Olympic Games. So the coaches have no connection at all out at sea. They can't check the live results of what's updated for the races of the day. So most coaches will bring out like a sheet of paper with the results and actually do like math. They add up the scores to try to find out who made it to the top 10 for the medal race day. So for us, we didn't have that, but we were on the way back to shore just thinking like, did we do enough? Did we do enough? And actually, like how the last race was going, we should have been totally in. Just that there was a huge wind shift to the left, and like the whole results flipped back. The back part of the fleet became in front, and everything became a shift. And then we dropped from, I don't know, like 5th to like 11 or something along those lines. And then we didn't know whether we did enough, So on the way back to shore, just thinking like, who's around us? Are we gonna make it? Stuff like that. And when we finally hit the beach in the harbor, the ramp, our chef de mission then was Dr. Pentan, no? So he's a sailor also. So he came up with the trolley, passing us the trolley to put it on our boat. And when he was telling us, he was like, we asked him, did we make it? He's like, yeah. That face we both had when we knew we made the medal race was just incredible. I don't think many people can like recreate that feeling. It's just like one of those that when you put in all that time, all that effort, everything just comes down to one point, that kind of feeling. Yeah, so I think that was like pure joy, pure joy. And like the funny part of that story is that actually in that race, when that left shift came, when we decided to finally give in and like eat our losses, we were covering one Danish girl while doing that. So the whole race we stayed in front of her, just like, okay, let's just finish this race in front of her. Doesn't really matter. But we didn't know the significance of that. But when we came back to shore, and Dr. Ben was like, do you know that boat that you exactly covered the whole race was the boat you needed to be in front of because she was number 11 on the medal race series. So we finished 10 and she was 11. So that was like the cutter. But we had no idea. It was just like a feeling, like an intuition. I have to go now. I think there's too many boats. It's about time. And yeah, so I guess that adds up to the extra like dramatic element of the whole qualifying for the medal race.
Brilliant. 100%. I think it must have been a really special feeling. Because how you mentioned, how you describe it really shows the pure joy, like you mentioned. So thanks for sharing that. And I'm really so happy for you to be able to have that core memory, that not a lot of people can say they have. Brilliant. So yeah, I mean, you've done a lot of sailing, so many years. You said what you've been racing since what, 14 was it?
I've been racing since 12 or 13, I think.
12 or 13. And it's been a long time, more. How long is it? More than definitely more than a decade. A lot of years. Yeah. So you've made many sacrifices. I saw some articles, you took leave of absence from your university. You spent a lot of time away from home, from family, from friends. Must not have been easy. So how did these sacrifices affect you? Like, like having to be away from family and friends.
I think we had one really good psychologist few years back that said it's not really a sacrifice, it's a choice we make. It's a life we choose to embark on as athletes, and it's quite a special one. Very lonely at times, I must say, but it is a very, very special one. I guess for me, because I've been traveling since I was, let's say my first trip was at 12 or 13. So like, be it June holidays or any of the school holidays we had, or even not holidays, we were away training or competing. I guess when it came to family and friends, it became they got used to it kind of thing. Oh, she's not in the country. Okay, that's normal. No, she's back. Okay, that kind of thing. But I guess you get really, really good at saying no sometimes, which is kind of a sad thing. Sailing became the center of everything I did. Like the whole world revolved around sailing without me even realizing it, I think, at some point. Friends or family or even school and everything just had to try to fit around the schedule of being the best I could be in sailing. And I guess it's a special road. It's different from many. It can get quite lonely in the sense that there's no more relatability to many around you because not many people understand why we do what we do, or is it even worth it? Like a lot of people ask that. But I think that's something special about leading this life. You go through a lot of different experiences, a lot of hard times because of sport. You already know more failure than success is the norm. But I think that's how I grew to know more of myself and shaped who I am today.
Nice. So yeah, what I get from it takes a really a different mentality and a different kind of mindset as opposed to like conventional routes, right? That be it Singaporeans or other like human beings take. So I can I can imagine, like a top athlete like yourself to go through these moments, and which a lot of people will not see. And yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I mean, because of all this, you train a lot, right? Like, let's say in a year, how often will you be out of Singapore? Like during your intense trainings?
So during the Olympic campaign, we would commonly be out of the country. We'll only be back in Singapore for 2 months. And that would not be in one block. It would be collectively. So like we would come back for 10 days, we'll come back for 2 weeks, something like that. And in that whole year, we'll be back home maybe 2 months.
Okay, so do you usually train out of Europe, right?
Yeah.
Like, is there a specific country or is there a few countries?
Our base was Portugal since 2017. So our coach is from there. We sailed out of there, we trained out of there. And then because most of the European circuit, or actually most of the sailing circuit is in Europe, right? So we would just go from, let's say, Portugal to Spain for the start of the season, then to France, and then Italy or wherever Europeans was held. And then, so largely we just stayed in Portugal, especially the first half of the year, because most of the season was in Europe.
Okay, so you were mainly there because of two reasons: the sailing circuits and your coach,
and also great sailing conditions.
And also what? Sorry.
Great sailing conditions.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the best places. There's always wind. You can get strong winds, light winds, big waves, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Which sometimes in Singapore you have to wait really long to even find, and we don't really have time for waiting, I think.
I can understand. Yeah.
Just a quick one. I remember back when I was younger, I was going through an incredibly tough period in my life where I had no one to talk to about my problems. There was no place I could share my honest thoughts and feelings because I was just so afraid of being judged by people. And I realized that was so bad for my mental well-being. It's like bottling up everything and just waiting for a day where it all explodes. So no, we're not going to let that happen for you. Because my team and I have developed a free social app called Huddleverse where you can share all your problems anonymously, whatever is currently on your mind that's bothering you, whatever is making you upset or giving you sleepless nights. This is a non-toxic app where you can just be yourself, heal, and make many wholesome friends that will be there for you to support you during difficult times. The app is currently available on iOS at the moment, so good news for iPhone users. But we are working really hard to get an Android version out as soon as we can, so we don't miss out on the rest of you. So trust me, download the app, give it a shot, and I guarantee you that your future you will thank you for taking care of yourself. I'll put the link in the description below as well, and I'll see you in Huddleverse.
So, okay. So I don't really keep track of sailing or up to date with it, but usually I would assume, since of what you mentioned, what you just mentioned, that are usually Europeans dominating the sailing circuits, like the competitions?
I think you have the Europeans, yes, but you also have the Aussies, New Zealand girls, New Zealand teams. British are pretty good also now. For our class specifically, the Brazilian girls are really good. They are double gold medalists. So, but she's also like the helm is from a sailing family, like a very known sailing legend family. But yeah, you have very established European nations in sailing, but you also have quite strong from Oceania. The Aussies and the Kiwis are really good also.
That's cool. And so, okay, so you were in Portugal a lot since 2017. How was it like there? How was the experience there? How was the culture there? How's the food, everything?
Amazing country. Like, I highly recommend. honestly, like, I couldn't have asked for a better place as a base. People are super warm. They welcome you. They treat you like their own, So we had a really good club called Club Naval de Cascais. It's just like half an hour, a little bit more away from Lisbon. We used to sail out of that club. They treated us really, really well. People are amazing. Food is amazing in every form. Seafood is great. Meats are great. Wine is also great. A lot of things are good about it. And I think also another particular reason we chose Portugal amongst other parts of Europe was also because it's a cheaper country in Europe. So for us to live there for such a long time, it was probably more feasible than other parts of Europe.
Wonderful. And I mean, you mentioned one of the reasons were because of your coach, right? So I mean, what was it like? How do you feel like having a coach back then? How did it improve your progress as a sailor? Was it really tremendous to have a coach side by side? Was it like a daily thing, right? Was it very intense?
Like, for us, a coach is almost like part of the team. Okay. It's almost like your teammate, just that your coach is not on your boat itself when you're racing, but they are on another boat out at sea with you when you are racing. So I think in sailing, it's actually very specific. Every team has their own coach. It's not like one big team has one coach, More often than not, it's like one team has a coach. So it's a very strong relationship you built with your coach, and there's a lot of trust there. You trust each other to be good at what they're good at, You fall back on each other a lot. You share your opinions and your thoughts about the progress of the campaign and how we can redo it or do it better or make tweaks along the way. I think, honestly, the coaching relationship is like one of the strongest things you need in a good Olympic campaign. And I'm very lucky I had a really good coach. Till this day, we still chat about life. I think sailing is a bit special in the fact that we really, really want the best of each other. Like, we want to grow as people before athletes. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that sailing, we spend lots of time together. Like, we don't just meet for our training sessions. There's so much more around training, like logistics, traveling, planning, anything. We have so much time spent together that I think that relationship is more important than anything else, actually.
100%. I think what you mentioned really encapsulates what it's like for a very strong, very close relationship in order to perform, right, at the highest levels. Yeah. And I think from what you mentioned, it also goes beyond competitions as well. So that's great. And there was a time I saw an article you mentioned about being close to a burnout before. And during the pandemic, and then how you said that it was a much needed break. And why do you think that happened? Why do you think you were close to a burnout? Was there any reasons that you could think of?
I think largely it's because the campaign more or less consumed me. Like, I already shared with you, like, when I was young, sailing became the center of everything. And you can only imagine how that grew as I went through youth and then Olympic campaigning, and I became a full-time athlete. That was really like my world. So like every day, day in, day out, be it like it's a off season, it's like you still think about how can you be better? Like what else can you do to be better at that final stage, which is the Olympic Games? Like, have we checked all the boxes? Have we thought through why we're doing certain things or why we're not doing certain things? Because like for me, I guess my philosophy has always been at the very end of the day, when I go for an event, regardless of the actual result, what it's seen, is that I need to know that I have thought through, I've gone through, I have done whatever I can possibly do with the information I had and my capabilities we have. That then I can say, whatever the result happens, I have zero regrets. I really do not look back to say, what if I had done this or should I have done that? So I guess for me, that was always a very strong thing. And I go about life like that. And it gets really intense because of that, I think. Because in the end of the day, you can't really control everything. But you can only say at that point in time, for all the factors that we believe are important for a campaign, are we looking through it? Are we considering it before we say, no, we don't need to do this, or we should focus on that? That is a bigger priority and stuff like that. So I think that was a large part of why it became so overwhelming, because even when I'm supposed to switch off, I wasn't switching off because I cared that much that at the end of the day, I really wanted to perform at that stage, and it mattered that much to me, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it just feels like, I don't know, probably there's a lot of thinking involved, a lot of analysis. Like, I don't know, I just feel like from what you mentioned, like probably there's like a checkbox or list of things to take. And I don't know if it's like what you said, right? Like you just want, at the end of the day, you want to have zero regrets. And at least, you've went through everything with the capabilities that you have, the resources that you have, whatever you've done, you can fully well in your mind say that, okay, I've done it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it will strike you so hard, especially if like you just miss out one thing at the end, like you just didn't really think about it, or not even by intent or anything, just by accident. And that will, I don't know, just it feels like it really, really hit you hard if that happened. So
actually, that actually happened in Tokyo.
Yeah.
So there was something we left out, but I think, I don't know, maybe because that's how I live my life. Even though we knew that factor at the end of the games, because other coaches started talking about it, like, oh, we all didn't consider something, then, but to me, like in hindsight, everyone is a genius, like with information now, I'm more well informed. I thought about it more. We had more people to think about it. Okay, then that is a new factor. But back then, when we had all the other things we were already thinking about and the information and the capabilities we had. So for me, I guess it just sits at the fact that if at that point in time, I did what I could, I think that's how it sits best for me to sleep at night, that kind of thing, or move forward.
Yeah, there's also a lot of ways to think about it. Like one thought I would have is we should be more forgiving on ourselves. That is one thought. But at the same time, I'm also thinking if I were to be an elite sportsman or athlete, you don't want to rest on your laurels. You want to know why you make the mistake. You want to get better.
Yeah.
You don't even want to make the mistake. So I don't know. It's just, well, I'm not an elite athlete, but putting myself and trying to sort of empathize. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Thanks for being so open with that. And you also mentioned like you've seen a psychologist, and I know that in sports in Singapore they do have that a lot. I mean, I've been speaking to a lot of athletes, and a lot of them have mentioned that. So how important do you think they are, like psychologists?
I've been working with a psychologist since I was 13. Sports psychologist. Different one at various stages. But honestly, most important thing, I think, in the development of a athlete, or actually just a human, I strongly believe that actually everyone should have some form of access to learning about mental skills, learning a little bit about psychology. There's just so much to life that's actually very stressful and uncertain. And I think just knowing a few tools in your hands can get you through so much more than I think we imagine. So for me, like, in the beginning, as a kid, you always learn the base, like all the different skills. Then you go and like try to utilize them, try to understand them, and see what works for you. So for me, when it reached towards the Olympic Games, I relied on a handful, be it like visualization on good scenarios, contingencies, whatever you need to be a little bit more prepared when it actually mattered. Skills on emotional regulation, like how do you manage stress or things at the most important time of your life, you know? In the end of the day, like everyone knows that you're gonna feel the highest stress you're gonna ever feel at the Olympic Games. There's no hiding that. There's no hiding that because it is the stage you dreamed of your whole life. Especially if it's your first games, because it's like you never knew how it's gonna feel, and everyone around you feels stressed and there's nerves on the ground, you know? But I think that's exactly what you try to prepare yourself best for. Have you done everything you need to do? Like all the lists are done, all your equipment is checked, you have gone through all the different wins that are going to come in that venue. Basically, for me, I'm a little bit of like a reflector and putting it down. Like I reflect all my trainings and then I summarize a lot of the work done. And that comes with cycles. So like I've done this with my psychologist. So what I did for preparation for Olympics was always to like form almost tables, kind of like cheat sheets, so like in different aspects of the sport, be it like venue knowledge, so like wind you're going to expect, conditions you're going to expect, and what actually pays in those conditions, or be it like boat handling, just to remember different winds, what you have to focus on, because there's so many different types of winds and conditions we get. It's easy to forget how to do something in a strong wind if you had 1 month of light wind before you, and that can happen any day because that's sailing for you. Tomorrow can have a typhoon and then it's a total different game. So I think these are all these small checks that I put in place so that when I went to the stage, I knew that if I need to refer back, I always had something prepared and the work was done, you know? So this was all done hand in hand with a psychologist. And also like even before events, she would help us with like team dynamics, because I work with Cecilia and my coach, so it's a triangle basically. So she would help us to find a good level of regulation in terms of leading the event. How can we have more open comms or ways to work better with our comms and to understand each other's like how do you say, each other's strengths or weaknesses, in a sense like Cecilia and I are very, very different. So how we react to stressful situations are also very different. So we learn to understand how each of us finds a little bit of compromise to best have a good performance at the end of the day. So that's something we worked strongly with our psychologist also for like 8 years or something.
Interesting. So was this psychologist on site with you guys, or was it like an online thing? Just curious. Mixture.
It's just a mixture, yeah. So when we could have her on site, we try to always do it like a big event, like a preparatory big event. So we did one, and then we would do the actual event. So like to get used to what we actually needed from her during big events. But a lot of the times our check-ins and check-outs were all via Zoom or calls or whatever, pre-post events, and like setting the next step towards another event, another training camp.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And for sharing the insights. I thought that was really, really interesting. Like I think like psychology, right? There's a lot of techniques that you can use, like you said, emotional regulation. And I don't know, like other techniques like CBT. Usually psychologists will give like homework and stuff, right? Things to take away. And that was really, really interesting, like cheat sheets, compartmentalizing and preparing it for the build up, leading to the huge event, right? Yeah, I thought that was very, 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 very interesting. So thanks for sharing that. And I think a lot of people don't know how much like psychologists or psychotherapists or therapy can really help them unlock their potential. Like not necessarily does it have to be a problem or like a family dysfunction or a stigmatized subject, but just performing at your best, you know, as an athlete. I've seen a lot of elite sports athletes go to psychologists and you just unlock, you know, be that 1%, 2%, 5% better than what they already are, even if they're already at the top of their game. So I thought that was really, really interesting. So thanks for sharing that. Thanks so much. You speak really well, and you're just really, I don't know, you just give me a really good impression, and you're just really mature, I guess, in a way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. We keep each other updated, and I'll let you know if there's anything. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Kimberly.
you.
See you. Take care.
Bye-bye. For me, one big one would be see beyond yourself. The fact that I think elite sport is almost like a bullet train, you know, like once you're on it, you go so fast. Everything outside of your world is like blurred. Like you lose touch of the outside world, your friends, your family at times, and because you're so hyper focused on what you want to achieve. But I think actually there's a lot of gains in that little pause to look outwards, that you're just part of this huge world. There's so much more going around you. To not get consumed by that whole process. I think that was something that I always used when an event became too big in my mind. Like it just became like almost life and death. You think of it that way, but in reality it's not. So for me, this helped me pull myself out of that situation to get like a big picture view on the whole feeling I was going through. And it got me more in the right state of mind to perform and everything.